This YouTube is the result of a PowerPoint presentation. Consciousness is something that is not easily explained, but the more we know about activating a higher consciousness, the better equipped we shall be to handle a future that relies fundamentally on our activation and performance. First of all, the basics of consciousness. Consciousness is being aware and responsive to one's surroundings, wakefulness, alertness, or perception of something. Consciousness is knowledge, sensitivity, and mindfulness. Consciousness is, most importantly, an invisible energy, a constant vibratory matter which energizes and stimulates sensitive receptors everywhere. A detection and reception of consciousness takes place on all levels, including animal, plant, and mineral. The evolution of consciousness has changed us from dim-witted instinctive creatures to reasoning and analytical human beings. It is generally assumed that most individuals will have a basic program and spontaneous mode of behavior. This essential and often routine behavior will necessarily be variable for each individual. This is what makes you unique. Evolution is now bringing in a greater or higher awareness of universal consciousness. This collectively held conscious resource is all around us, ready for our personal perusal and our further development. An active consciousness operates through a connection and detection of energy impulses. These subtle pulses will be decoded through the sensitive network of the brain. Impulse signals can come from within as well as from an outside source. Be sure to know that the heart, as well as other sensitive organs, will influence a consciousness to offer various moods and inclination. Generally, a personal need and dominant interest will be the determining factor that drives the activation of consciousness. Living in this modern time and being alert and switched on, there will be much stimulation daily through travel, work, family, news, advertising, and political unrest. We possibly ignore much of this influence, being naturally selective to our own interests. But, as always, new situations bring in new priorities, and urgency or distress will compel us to further action. Consciousness is an active process. We build on what we know. Throughout time, many hard-working individuals have left their expertise and observations for us to consider through the internet, books, recordings, and other publications. As well as that, millions of vital alerts are circulating in an atmosphere primed for future events. These timely messages or vibrations are specifically attuned and available right now. But will someone pick up on this essential and vital information? Because here is the great miracle. Dedicated thought and questions about anything and everything will attract similar thought formulations. These form clusters of further possibilities that we can work with. Sudden inspiration or the opening of one of these mini thought structures can come at the oddest moment. It could be while you're working. You may be walking or you're talking, or perhaps a book falls off the shelf. Somehow or other, this message will be delivered. A certain sensitivity may be necessary. We live in a participating universe, which is sure to offer further potential and opportunity to advance. Each and every one is connected by way of interest. Puzzles may be laid for us to follow up on. Abstractions may be conceived that need further development. Our involvement is vital and exciting as we search for further clues and options. You could say that this world is one big thinking machine, triggered by impulse and activation. Some will call this energy resource the mind of God. Higher consciousness can also be understood as truly inspired, having a greater awareness. Think Albert Einstein, Stephen Hawking, Picasso, writers like Dickens, and inventors such as Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla. And surely some females like Marie Curie, Jane Austen, Helena Blavatsky. Then there's Steve Jobs and Deepak Chopra. These people have changed the world. What these individuals have in common is focus, perception, ingenuity, insight, determination, originality, but most of all, a persistence. The universal consciousness will align to our interest through a dedicated thought or vibrational output. Being a synchronistic network, our questions will align with what is currently available and more. The universal consciousness continually adapts through further time frames and may be called evolutionary. Good ideas are everywhere. All right, some may be half-baked, half-done, and totally abstract, but we can have the fun of further development. This is the new millennium, where it is possible to tune into sympathetic fields through a conditioned mind. A conditioned mind is focused, yet relaxed, able to utilize the faculties of imagination. The scope of this higher consciousness will offer great expansion and will only be limited by our own effort and resourcefulness. Multiple ideas and possibilities will surface to be tested or rejected. We determine, we decide at all times. A higher consciousness will bring us insight, knowing what is happening with friends or family, even when they are hundreds of miles away. Strong emotional links could vibrate within, and we will see what is happening with our mind's eye, even though we may be on the other side of the world. Yes, this is happening right now to many rational and conditioned minds. The universal mind or collective consciousness can be worked with and added to so that others will benefit as well. Naturally, there's both the good and the bad. Also, similar minds can discover similar ideas. We know that this can be quite a contentious issue because each will claim ownership. You have probably noticed that we do infect and influence one another through a common consciousness. A telepathic connection for family members or at a business meeting is becoming quite common. Logic has it, though, that full readability or full disclosure of other minds would be disastrous because we are not yet ready. As it is, walk about in a city street or visit a jail, and the impact of such a telepathic connection may well shock and surprise you because we are all at different levels of development. But evolution marches on. But get ready for the future. Intellectual property rights will be a bit of a joke because all ideas that can be held in thought will be open for everyone to see. Yes, we have moved into a new time frame and observation graphic. Our future relies fundamentally on our higher conscious activation and performance. We all know there's much that needs to be done. What do we want? What do we really need? What is essential right now? Moving through space and time, be sure to know that all is connected. No thought is ever lost. No question ever was unanswered. A higher conscious activation and personal alignment with the divine resource is a sublime and perfect reason to live, to love, and to create anew.